All right, welcome to your Ag Empire. I'm your host, Jonathon Haralson, and today we've got a special treat. We've got Roland Sanchez with Red Dock Farms. We've got Mark with Greensteaks, Mark, I believe.
Correct, Greensteak.
And we've got Keaton Dodd, who's the new executive director of the Santa Gertrudis Association. Guys, welcome to the show. Today, it's going to be a catch-all. I want to talk a little bit about the beef industry, where we're going, some neat things that are going on, and let's open up the discussion here. Roland, what do you got cooking?
We hadn't slowed down one bit here. It's fall time here. We are in the middle of AI, turning out bulls, finishing up calving, and ready for the first snow coming this week. So there's been no slowdown at all for us at Red Dock.
Good deal. Keaton, you just jumped head first into this executive director role. What is that like? Do you come from a Santa Gertrudis background? Give us a little bit about your background.
I'm actually a Hereford breeder by trade, I guess, but I spent some time in College Station working at Texas A&M. And then I was the vice president of seed stock operations for BRC Ranch there in Wharton County and had another place in Louisiana. And so I have a little bit of a science background, but also a production background. And so I think that balance helps me be able to fit a diverse customer base.
I like that. And Mark, give me the background of your space in this production cycle. Where do you come in and what are you looking at?
So we started a project several years ago. My prior relationship with Red Dock Farms was through working with GrowSafe, collecting feed intake on their genetics. And I worked for GrowSafe. And since then, since I've went on to some other activities, I've stayed with Red Dock, and we continue to work with their data on what they do with feed intake. We've actually expanded it out into a company called Greensteak, which we work with a large commercial herd where we actually collect the data from the ranch all the way to the feed yard, collect intake data, collect carcass data, put valuation in to verify the value of calves for their bull customers. And we do that for Red Dock and several other seed stock breeders.
This is a kind of a good mix because I'm a commercial cow-calf guy, and I stumbled into this breed with my wife. And we've got a set of females. A lot of our stock has come from Red Dock Farms, and we've used it. I like to run my own, research. So like my commercial calves, what they're weaning out as and what our purebred cattle are weaning out at. And you look at where we're at in the beef industry today, we've got bigger profit margins than we've ever seen. Like the opportunities are ripe. And I think right now, like heterosis, feed efficiency, this quote green movement that has been thrust upon us, we've got to be able to take advantage of that. And I'm just looking at what the Sanchez family, they put their money where their mouth is. They've sat there and run a lot of these tests and things and paid for them out of their pocket to get the data to prove that there's some opportunity out there.
It's funny because a lot of times people always wonder what got you into all this testing and data and all the research. And my dad was actually an engineer before he was a doctor. And so my dad never did anything based off somebody's grandpa's story or something he inherited, because we didn't. Everything we built from the ground up. And my mind and my dad's and my siblings' mind has always been about numbers and scientific research that proves its reality. And so much of what's out there doesn't really correlate with either keeping you in the black or keeping a reproductive animal that keeps you in business. And so we started testing in the 80s. We started game test testing, which was all that existed at that point. And by 2000, we were in GrowSafe systems testing. And now 25 years later, like Mark said, we've tied up with Greensteak. And this isn't just about testing to sell a bull. This is testing because the money it saves our operations. We're going on our 6th generation of cattle, and you can correlate those lines. They're stacked now. And the efficiency factor is our number one money saving opportunity with the cattle business right now.
Roland, you and I've talked about some of the sires that you've had that, and some of these feed conversions, weren't there a couple of these bulls that 3.6 to 3.8 conversion? Like that is, we're getting to where we as a protein can compete with the pork industry. That is a story that needs to be told.
With Mark's help and Greensteak's help, it's not just a one story or one liner. You can talk to Mark and he will show you how these lines have tied up and how we can actually see first generation, second generation, and that RPD correlation that Greensteak offers that no one else offers. The efficiency index that exists today and the grid index today is its own game.
So, Mark, let's just think about this on the Greensteak side. Is there an opportunity for producers out there to look at some value add whenever, like a breeder, like the Sanchez family, Red Dock Farms, we've got that efficiency factor. So I'm a commercial cow man, and I'm trying to look at how is Greensteak going to benefit me on the back end if I'm trying to market cattle.
Sure. So when you look at efficiency, not all cattle convert the same. Some cattle out there just plain gain more on less. That's documented. When you look at the heritability, it's moderately heritable. And that's the same as carcass traits, right? And we've moved mountains. In the 90s, we graded 55% choice and up as an industry. Now we're grading 85% choice and up due to people selecting from data. So the moderately heritable traits you can move. And with Red Dock and several other breeders we work with that have been feed efficiency testing for generations of their cattle, they've moved the needle significantly on feed to gain. Within Greensteak, what we feel like we've taken it one step further, because historically people that have intake systems such as GrowSafe, they'll test the bulls they sell. Red Dock tests all the bulls they sell. And that is a great place to start. But what Red Dock has done with us, they've taken it one step further. We've made real efforts to pull calves off of a commercial ranch and use the sires that they're selling bulls out of, and to test those calves through the ranch, through the feed yard. We intake test them, and then we get carcass data. But on the feed efficiency part, when we test them, that's where the term RPD comes from, Real Progeny Data. So don't get me wrong here. I'm a huge fan of EPDs. I'm a huge fan of genomics, but I'm a bigger fan of actually measuring data that comes from a commercial ranch setting through a feed yard, through the packing plant. And that's where the term RPD comes from. So when we run an E-index, is what we call it. When we run an E-index on the bulls that Red Dock sells, basically that E-index says how much should we expect a calf out of the bull selling to gain in relation to industry average feed to gain in the feed yard. So what we do is, if we have really a lot of really solid data from the commercial ranch data on a sire, we weight that data the very heaviest on that. That's what we're after, is real progeny data. And I realize that feeds into EPDs field, but a lot of it is basically on the bulls being developed. We want this to basically emulate when they buy that bull from the sale and they turn the bull out and they get the calves. What are the calves going to actually do on the ranch and through the feed yard in a setting, what a steer does? So we weight our data the heaviest on that RPD. And if we're a little bit short on data, because, hey, these things take years, right, to develop this. And we do believe in the EPD and the genomics. So we also put in the equation the same data that breed associations put out. Without breed associations, we wouldn't have these measures, and we use those. All we do is we turn around as soon as we can get actual data, we weight that in heavily. And Red Dock's been around doing this for quite a while, where we've got a pretty good test on their genetics, and they're getting it done.
I've worked with a lot of different folks all over the world, and a lot of global companies. They get their financing overseas, and they have to adhere to the ESG standards. And I'm curious, does this create an opportunity for us to have a global marketer to fulfill some of those sustainability side of the beef industry with the data that we're collecting here, knowing that maybe we're buying our bull power from Red Dock Farms, and we know that they're going to fit that E-index? Could that open up another market for us as a commercial cowman?
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you value a calf crop of Red Dock sired calves, and it gives you a couple different options. Obviously, you can say, I've invested and I bought the best of the best, you might say these calves, if I take them to the feed yard and they're going to convert at the very optimal point, obviously the best thing in the world you could do is retain ownership. And if
Sure.
but at a minimum, you can take that verification and take them to wherever you sell them, whether it be on a video, sale barn, whether it be private treaty. We'll give them the verification, the value of what to expect from those calves. But, obviously, you can not just sell your steer calves. If you want to sell replacement heifers, efficiency goes across all different planes of management. I believe that there's probably some lines that are maybe a little bit better on grass, some that are a little bit better on grain, some that might convert better at a young age versus a mature cow. I think there's going to be differences in genetics, but in general, efficiency is efficiency. If you're efficient in one plane of your business level, it's going to be favorable all the way through. So you can market your replacement females you sell with this, or you can use it heavily in retaining into the cow herd, and you can drop your feed cost needs through your own cow herd. We always talk about testing bulls. In Greensteak, we test a lot on steer value, but really the biggest savings, the biggest opportunity is in the efficiency of that mother cow that you have 10, 12, 13 years.
Yeah. And that's what in Red Dock, we test every female that's in the A herd. They're also tested on Grow Safe. And what Mark just said right there, these bulls are with us a very short period compared to our females. We got
Sure.
15-year-old cows, still 16-year-old cows in production. And where our big savings long-term on a ranch our size, our operation, is really the efficiency that these mother cows have. And that's what we're breeding for. But that being said, Mark knows better than anyone. One concern, and Keaton and Mark draw back into this, is that we didn't want to produce just an animal that was efficient that couldn't produce the American high quality beef that we need. And at the end of the day, it's got to be efficient for us, the rancher. It's got to live in your environment under your natural living setting, but it also needs to produce a calf that the consumer, the American public, wants to purchase. The last set of calves that are Greensteak calves that were combination of Red Dock and 2-Bar C and some other folks, I think this marketed 94% choice plus, right?
Yeah, so we killed a round of them into a new plant that I'm working with closely. And get this, they grade 94% choice and up, and they were, I believe it was 86% yield grade 1s and 2s, which is unheard of. So this is a lot of Red Dock, but it's several other breeders have been working on this. You can move the needle significantly with selection. And that's where you really want to pair up with somebody that raises bulls that have been selected to not just grow efficiently, but to hang up a carcass that's superior. And they're getting it done. Those are phenomenal results, and they're repeatable. It was in a commercial setting, right?
And I think this goes much deeper. A lot of guys are just looking for bull power. And for the last 10, 15 years, what did we do? We bought a black bull, we bought a Hereford bull, we bought whatever. And we just put that out there because that's where it's just going to work. That's just what the industry wanted. But you're starting to see where these quality incentives, these extra program payments on the back end for someone that's going to retain ownership, it's really creating some big value. And I think with what you guys are doing, it's going to revolutionize what a person, rather than just being a cow man with a set of cows out there, like it, there's a little more science behind it. We want to get some sustainability in there. We want to get that built up to where these guys can have a lot more dollars on the back end rather than just taking and selling commodity cattle.
I'm not going to take Keaton's job away because as a breed association, nobody does it better to do birth EPDs, calving EPDs, weaning weights, yearling weights. We don't need to go reinvent the wheel and do those things. But where we step in, basically, we have 3 areas we look at. Last year, for the first time, we put out E-indexes, and that basically is using real data, RPDs, to predict how a calf sired by these bulls being sold converts through the feed yard. That's the biggest single money line in a feed yard is the feed cost and conversion. Next to health. Health is wildly important, but that has so many other factors beyond just the genetics. But as far as genetics, the biggest thing you can do is move the needle on efficiency. So we did that last year. We rolled that out last year. This year, we're rolling out what we call a G index, and that is based upon the same kind of a data mindset on the grid value. And the last big frontier that we're working on then is the maternal values, and that's a next year project, but it'll be based around fertility and longevity within the cow herd, which really, the longer you can keep a cow and keep her in production, breed every year, we think that's ultimately a huge thing that we need to measure. But you mentioned something a second ago also that you talked about sustainability. So when you look at what we're doing, really it's a sustainability metric that we're providing. It's huge in today's world, and thus the name Greensteak. We want to produce a quality steak, but we also want to make sure that it fits the consumer's asks and wants out there. The next step then is for whoever's buying these Greensteak verified calves, putting them in the feed yard and then getting them into programs that ask or require some sustainability metrics, which we bring that right with the calves. So we think that's another thing that's coming that's going to be really big for us and Red Dock and the other breeders we work with, that they'll have that to take to the marketplace.
And Mark, I know you got a bounce, but I did want to touch base on the fact that the Greensteak system that the Red Dock operationally currently also runs around is now 100% dry matter and water intake. You know, when it comes to sustainability, we all are facing water complications. I don't care if it's us irrigating on our farm, water ranching, water, all these issues, right? We now have these cattle, not only dry matter intake, they're all water intake as well. And it'd blow your mind when you start correlating the metrics of water and feed. And I think if someone really tests their animals, you know, sometimes it's hard to find out the reality of what you're running. Yeah. But when you do focus on it and you create what you want, you'd be surprised the difference in selection of genetics.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Scooter, because what Red Dock's doing in the GrowSafe system that they have, they will be the first system in the country that has everything that gets feed intake tested, also has water intake measurements that correlates to that. There's some correlations between feed and water intake. So we've got that to offer up for verification as far as water intake savings in relation to production. This is cutting edge. Nobody else is offering this, and we're there. We're doing it already. All the calves being run through the feed yard now on the intake systems and water measurement are getting the water intake as well. So if you really want to put a sustainability metric out there to a consumer, or to, it has to come in through a brand, obviously, first, but if you want to give a brand the opportunity to show water intake, water metrics, water out, it's something that's on everybody's mind as far as how much water do we use in ag, and what can we do to responsibly use water. There's a lot of feed yards out there that have a hard time getting enough water where they're at. We look at what we use for irrigation to grow corn, and water, it's going to end up being our most precious commodity. We're first in on tying this to a feeder calf verification on what are your possibilities around water. So we're really excited about that.
I like that, Mark. I think that whole sustainability message for the consumer, when I'm in New York City or Chicago, the West Coast, those individuals, they love our product. The American producer has created a very consistent product that the consumer loves, but they also want to know what we're doing, how we're doing it, and are we hurting the environment, or are we saving the environment? And we as producers, we need to be proactive. And I think what you guys are putting together here, it's going to help us tell that story, get that information out there so that the consumer can make an educated choice and pay a premium for Red Dock sired calves or any of the other breeders that are participating in that program.
Well, and they're always welcome to come out and visit us here at Red Dock and see the operation, because, you know, there's so many things nowadays that are a story. This is real life. We're in it every day. We know the lines. If they can't get a hold of us, they can call Keaton at SGBI and call Mark. They can see the animals live here in their natural environment, in the testing facilities. We're an open book. We're just trying to produce a great product for America with the smallest carbon print.
Absolutely. Keaton, here we are, executive director Obviously, you saw something in the breed that you wanted to get behind. Give me a little rundown for a guy that's running a set of Angus cross cows out there in Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas. Why would it appeal to have these genetics come into that herd?
Absolutely. Been sitting here kind of quiet because when someone's smarter than you, I learned from an early age to sit back and close your mouth and listen. And so I enjoyed listening to what Mark had to say. But as far as what I see Santa Gertrudis offers the industry, and I'm not talking on a local level as far as the Gulf Coast, I'm talking a global level. When we talk about expanding our horizons into other countries, and I know Red Dock's been very successful at that, but specifically we think about that commercial Angus crossbred cow in Kansas. Not only are you getting some adaptability features that come from the Santa Gertrudis and some of the longevity and the maternal function traits, what we think about, I heard you talk about heterosis and hybrid vigor earlier, and your grandpa probably told you that's the only free thing you're getting in the beef business is heterosis and hybrid vigor. And so when we talk about implementing Santa Gertrudis into a commercial cow herd nationwide, where, let's be honest, it's heavily Angus based, we're going to get double hybrid vigor, not only from the fact that the British base in Santa Gertrudis is completely unrelated to the majority of the nation's cow herd as far as on a British level, and we throw in that little extra Brahman spike, and you start to see cattle that perform to a level greater than what they've probably ever seen before. And so the buzzword sustainability is the big thing. We've all mentioned it, and each one of us have talked so far. We talk about sustainability, but there's no way to have sustainability without two things: profitability and efficiency. If you can't make a living in this, there is no sustainability in your business. And if you are not operating efficiently with as minimal waste as you possibly can, you're probably degrading your land, you're degrading your product. Ultimately, you're not sustainable either. And so I think Red Dog, specifically amongst not only the Santa Gertrudis world, but what they do just as seed stock beef producers, I think that's what we all have to strive to be. And so I hope the rest of our breed continues to fall in line and follow in those footsteps, because I have always told, even when I was at A&M, when I was in the field, don't tell me, show me. And they have the data to prove what these cattle are capable of doing. We just talked about it. The amount of those cattle that were upper end choice, yield grade 1s and 2, you usually don't find that very often. And as a matter of fact, you would probably never find that in another situation. And so my compliments to them. I think it's very impressive.
And I think I want to echo something that you said there, Keaton, was these cattle are all over the U.S. I think what shocked me when I went to the first bull sale with Red Dock was there were some folks there from Utah. Those cattle, whether the feed yard knows it or not, those cattle are feeding out in Nebraska and performing very well. And so for anybody that says that those cattle only work in the South, that is not the truth. I've seen those cattle all over the U.S., and they handle a blizzard and 10, 20, 30 below just fine.
Yeah, we got cattle in Iowa and Illinois and everywhere feeding out. So
yeah,
I really think Santa Gertrudis is a global breed. You can stick them anywhere in the world and they'll fit in and function appropriately.
It's been really good and a breath of fresh air to see a lot of the cattle producers I talk to all over the U.S. That's the one thing that they're looking for is what is something I can do that's not going to, they're going to need bulls regardless, but what is something I can add to my cattle and give me some real value? And that's where I do think getting some genetics that's out of the norm. The dairy industry did this for years where they bred for the same sire, and we got down to where the genetics were, they were down to 5 different family lines. That's it. And we started seeing those cattle go backwards. I think Angus, we've done the same thing. We picked our favorites, and everybody piled in on the situation. And so a lot of producers, a lot of commercial cowmen are looking for opportunities to add cheap value. And I think that can be done with a little bit of an outcross here into something totally different, but still have a calf that is marketable and that has extra value. And that's where Mark comes in. And I think there's going to be some opportunities down the road where maybe that value add, we can actually attach that to the calf some way, shape, or form through the sire.
You won't have to wait much longer. I think our kickoff date, Mark, is right at NCBA, right? The new sustainability from Greensteak, you'll be able to certify the calves, correct?
Correct.
Am I saying that too early?
No, you can start. Actually, the first sales that we're going to handle are 2 Angus sales, both top-notch sales in December. Actually, we're going to roll it out there where the buyers can start enrolling their cow herds. And by the time we get to you, Scooter, in April, what's your date?
April 11th, we'll be ready.
By the time we get to April 11th, we'll be all practiced up. Yeah.
There will be the program, and you will be able to start, like Mark says, now this here in December at 2 Bar C's. I believe they've got the first one that you'll actually be able to enroll the calves into Greensteak and head down that road with the new marketing program for the cattle nationwide.
Yeah, actually, we beat Clyde's sale by 2 days because Leo McDonald in Montana will be
That's
the
correct,
first.
Leo. That's right. Leo will be first. Yes, that's right.
Yeah, I think this is going to be huge down the road because the American consumer, while they're paying higher prices than they've ever paid and demand is still strong, it's going to be important that we attach all the information we can so that the end user can then use that on their end to justify why the quality is there and what is that efficiency and that sustainability message, because that, I think that is going to be huge moving forward.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for having us out tonight. And thank you, Keaton, for coming on. And Mark, this is incredible, I think, a conversation. And I love that someone is always keeping us in check here, Mark. So I appreciate that. I will say this, when Mark and I first met, we started on two ends of the table. And I think it says a lot about the relationship that we built because we've questioned everything all the way. And that's what's helped made our program so strong and produce the quality that Mark has always brought his side and we've been able to bring our side. And that has made a lot of the ties to the operation that have really advanced the Red Dock program and helped us become a nationwide bull offering. And hopefully we'll continue to do that and produce for our clients.
I love it. Guys, I'm glad you could join us for a little conversation today. If you're listening and you are interested in learning more, reach out. We'll have a link down below for Red Dock Farms. Keaton will also add in the Santa Gertrudis Association. And then Mark, we're also going to try to get some Greensteak information out there so that if someone is really wanting to find out more, we can provide that to you guys. So guys, as always, be good or be good at it.